I submitted a grant proposal to Project Catalyst, which, if you don't know, is an innovation fund for the Cardano blockchain. For my proposal to be accepted, people with ADA coin have to vote for it. So that's primarily who this video is aimed at. So, hi. What I'm proposing is building the basic skeleton of a new Web3 rhythm game in 6 months. I'm proposing this because I don't think it would be very hard. I like making rhythm games more than I like my current job. And in the long run, I think a Web3 rhythm game could be interesting from a game design perspective. Why don't I think it would be very hard? Well, let me show you some stuff. This is a barely functional rhythm game running in a browser. I think I wrote it in like a month. I don't remember exactly, but it's 1,100 lines of JavaScript. And I made it 8 years ago. And then a year after that, 7 years ago, while I was still in college, I started over from scratch and made another barely functional rhythm game, this time in Java. Totally unrelated to JavaScript, by the way. Does not run in a browser. For whatever reason, I live streamed the first week of development I did on this, and this is a screenshot from where I was after 47 hours. I think I worked on it a bit more after that, but it looks mostly functional here. The final line count for that project was 1,640. Now, since then, I've graduated college, I've gotten 5 years of professional programming experience, and I've worked at a few different companies, including Amazon Web Services. And as if I couldn't help myself, in my spare time, I've been working on yet another rhythm game. This one I might actually finish. This one is written in TypeScript, which is basically just JavaScript. It runs in a web browser. And I would argue it's much better at displaying information to the user here. There's leaderboards and other stuff you don't see. And another disclaimer, the visuals are still pretty rough because I'm not focusing on that yet. But this project is currently about 30,000 lines of code. Basically, what I want you to take away is that I've made web-based rhythm games before. And I can do it again, since it's all been solo work anyways. And I can probably figure out the Cardano stuff pretty easily too. Now, in the proposal I submitted, I've obviously given a description of what exactly I'm promising to build, and I'll go over it in a second, but I really want to emphasize that it's not the final design of the game. It's a prototype. It might be good, it might be bad, and that's not really the point. I'm trying to explore and figure things out, so whatever I build in the first 6 months is probably going to be changed significantly. So what I'm thinking is, we'll start with a basic 7-key vertical scrolling rhythm game with a slight twist on how the music and the charts are created. You'll create the music and the chart at the same time using something like a synthesizer. You'll perform it live with your computer keyboard, and there's only 7 lanes, so you can only make really simple music. I'm talking like Hot Cross Buns or Jingle Bells. Then that sequence of key presses gets saved, it makes an audio file, and it makes an NFT. Then some other player can come along and play that song that you just made. They'll have to recreate the buttons that the music creator pressed as precisely as possible, and they'll try over and over again to get the best score. Typical rhythm game stuff. Now, what happens with the NFT is, whoever made the song gets 51% ownership of it, and the other 49% gets awarded to the top 10 players on the leaderboard based on their position after like a week has passed. So the people creating the content for the game get rewarded, and also it could make a little bit of a competitive esports scene. Maybe. I don't know. Could be interesting. To be clear, I really, really don't want to turn the game into some kind of unfun cash grab like seemingly every other thing involving crypto. The first question I asked myself before I decided to write this proposal was, is there a non-manipulative reason I would want someone to own an NFT of a song. Like if my best friend came up to me and said, "Hey, I just spent 20 bucks on this music NFT." And I ask why, as much as possible, I want the answer to not be, "I plan to resell it later to make money." I want someone to buy an NFT because the song has sentimental value to them. Like if they played it a lot and they're proud of a score that they got, or if they want to support the artist, or if they just like the song. Anything that's not gambling, basically. And maybe the real solution is not non fungible tokens, but actually fungible ones, or some kind of royalty on each sale that gets paid to the artist. I'm not really sure. A lot of these decisions are tangled up in the game design, so again, the first 6 months of this project are just to get things started. So now, what's the rest of the video about? Maybe this is a bit indulgent, but I feel like I should explain my design philosophy a little bit to maybe help you predict what kind of game I would make, more than what I've told you so far. So I'm going to talk for a bit about what I think some of the problems in rhythm games are and how I might solve them. Over the past 20 years of the history of rhythm games, there have been some good ideas and some bad ideas. In particular, I think the user experience has been improved drastically. Custom key bindings, audio and video latency configuration, letting the player switch between upscroll and downscroll, leaderboards, scoring systems, visual feedback. These are all features that have basically become standard. There's some funny ideas about scroll speed, though. Some designers think, rather than letting the player decide a constant scroll speed, that it should be dependent on the BPM of the song, or it should be allowed to change dynamically or completely stop sometimes. I assume this is done for visual effect. It's to add a layer of synchronization, maybe make the player feel the song more. But I don't like it. In general, designers keep trying to add things. Add more stuff going on in the background, add visual effects. Sure, it looks cool, and maybe that stuff is fun for some players. And for better or worse, visuals are a big selling point. But my confusion has always been, what's the point of adding things if they make it harder to play the game? All this stuff is just noise. It makes the player play worse. And whatever challenge it's supposed to add is defeated by memorization. In my opinion, rhythm games should not be about learning how to ignore visual noise and memorizing note positions, though of course some memorization happens. We should, as much as possible, use visuals to help the player play better. Another issue, let's talk about content, specifically music and charts. Music is the audio, charts are the sequence of expected player inputs. Where do we get these? For the prototype, obviously, I'm having the player make the music and the chart in-game. But let's consider our options. Typically, video game music is its own separate discipline, like the background music. But for a rhythm game, like a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band, you're using regular songs from mainstream artists. So that's bad news, actually, because for one thing, I'm pretty sure video game musicians are usually cheaper than regular musicians. And for another thing, usually the names of these musicians are part of the selling point in rhythm games. Like, if you're Harmonix or Konami, you will put millions of dollars into music licensing to get the big names. The more recognizable names you can associate with your game, the more it'll sell. And that's a shame, honestly, because honestly, I don't personally think that popularity equals quality. And you want music that's not just interesting to listen to, but interesting to play as well. So, unfortunately, I think chart quality is an afterthought in a lot of rhythm games, and that's a trend I'd like to reverse. On the topic of charts, it's not like just anyone can make them. Making a chart is a time-consuming process that uses specialized software, and it's a totally different skill set from making music. The person making the chart, the step artist, as they're called, they need to be good at the game and be able to create interesting patterns that are at the right difficulty level. And there's more bad news. There's not even a marketplace for hiring these step artists. It's extremely difficult to commission these people because they're mostly just hobbyists who are doing it to be part of some rhythm games community. Many rhythm games, like Osu or Flash Flash Revolution, follow this pattern of being a non-profit and community-based game. They start out small. They ask individual artists for permission to feature their music, and artists agree on the condition that the game remain non-profit. And over the years, these games accumulate a big backlog of music. And at the same time, they're building a community of step artists who have permission to make charts for this music. And then there's a pipeline set up to get the charts and the music into the game. I personally don't like this arrangement either, because if you can't make any money, then all the staff are volunteers. You have to spend all this time managing people, and the whole thing just stagnates. I don't think we're going to see great innovation in rhythm games if they're stuck not being allowed to make money. And the step artists, too. How are people supposed to get good at making charts if they can't make money doing it? Anyways, I don't really have an answer here. I obviously don't have a multi-million-dollar music licensing budget. And I also don't think it's realistic to wait 10 years to build a community before the game can be good. It's certainly not something that I'm going to be able to solve in 6 months. But it seems like crypto and music licensing can kind of work together, maybe? Like if music artists could somehow get paid for making music for the game, that would attract some indies. And if we could offer a similar deal for the step artists too, that'd be great. Or like with this project, if we combine creating music and creating charts in a way that's not terribly difficult, maybe that's a solution. I'm worried the quality isn't going to be good in that case. But anyway, my theory is there's things you could do here that are unique to crypto and have a chance to solve this music chart problem. Or we could do a more traditional solution as well. I'm not sure. But so that's the design direction. In a nutshell, make a reasonably competent rhythm game. Figure out some interesting new solution to the music chart availability problem. And make money primarily by having good songs, good charts, and a good user experience. Probably none of that will happen in the first 6 months, but I'd really like to pursue this, so please vote for my proposal, okay? Bye.